Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this week for this edition of Sisters of Legacy. I do way too many shows because I can't remember
Mhm.
which one I'm supposed to be introducing. But thank you guys for joining us. We are going to run our intro and we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. Again, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate the support. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the ladies. Of course, we have the lovely Shanetta,
Hey.
and we have Tangela, Terrell,
Hey y'all.
Katrina Taylor,
Hello.
and we have our special guest tonight, Latoya.
Yes.
Hey. So thank you, ladies, for your time, and thank you for being here and being a part. So we know with age and growth, the hope is that maturity follows that. And so sometimes maturity is just changing the way you think, the way you see things, the way you react to things, all of those different possibilities. So tonight, I thought, what better way to share with our community than to let everyone know how we have changed? I know the pandemic was different and almost the same for everyone. The same in the sense that, we all were limited in one way or another, but it was different with how it affected us, how we responded to it, and the things we went through during the pandemic. So tonight, ladies, I just want you to share kind of if you had some great moments of reflection, something you learned about yourself, maybe something you learned about your circle, something you didn't see before. Can be something you learned about your kids, your spouse, whatever. Who wants to go first? Don't everybody jump at the opportunity.
Hey, so I can go first.
Okay.
There's been a couple of different things. I think first and foremost, I realized I was the strong friend. And so the one that checks on everybody else, but may be going through something personally and not openly sharing that. Um, and so that really became very apparent because with work stress and isolation due to quarantine and everything else, I was still really good about following up with everybody else, but not taking really good care of myself.
Okay.
Because I'm an extrovert. And so to not be able to socialize and having to be locked down eventually started to really wear on me. And just being able to be open about that and comfortable being open about that. I'm kind of having some struggles right now. I need to see my people. I need to interact, and that was really hard. And I got burnt out with Zoom conversations and all of that. So I really learned. I used to think, I'm transparent with everybody, but I realized that, for me personally, I needed to do better self. Um, and then on the flip side from that, which is really a bonus, is that I just gained better empathy for people. Um, People were dying left and right. And you didn't know who was dying. And, there were lots of people had friends. Unfortunately, friends, family members passed away. I had a friend myself. And you just never know what anybody's going through. And so I developed a much greater empathy for relating to people and kindness. I think I'm a nice person in general, but I had to step it up a level because you just never know what people are through and having to be at home and be a caregiver, dealing with.
Right. Well, I'll say like on the flip side, like Zoom and the daggone StreamYard and stuff like this has become like my best friend.
The
Like,
norm, yeah.
normally I'm good. I could just call you, text you, but now I know they can say like, I'm like, hey, can you jump on? Because I got to where like I want to see people's face. Like I want to see you when I talk to you. Fine, I can't, we can't get out, but being able to do the Zoom calls and see people, that kind of helped me, transition through it. Like, I love my kids and I love my husband, but I just got tired of seeing the same three faces. Like, I need, I need some other faces. Can we,
Interaction, yeah.
some other faces in? So like the Zoom and stuff kind of became my best friend.
It was the opposite for me because I do Zoom and WebEx and all of these screen sharing things for work all day. So at the end of the day, I didn't want to jump on another Zoom birthday party or Zoom happy hour. I was done. I was all zoomed out.
I got it. So Shanetta, so I'm just gonna call you out. Yes.
So what I would have to say is that a few years ago, this was before pre-pandemic, before any of this happened, I had committed in my own mind that I was going to slow down. I mean, you guys know we've always had kids, so we've thrown them in all kinds of activities, and whatever we didn't throw them in, they threw themselves in, and it was just kind of like we were always constantly on the go. So we would have practice, we would have games, we would have church, we would have, school. So we had all these things that were going on. I'm a working mom, my husband works, so we had a very on the go household. So a few years ago, as I realized that I was growing up or getting older, I committed to myself to slow down a little bit and to just not do so much and to be okay with saying, no, I can't do that. And to be okay with that and to just kind of make time to just slow it down just a little bit. Now, my husband is on the opposite end of the spectrum. And he's like, I'll slow down when I die. And it's just kind of like, he's like, go, 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 go. And I'm like, no, let's slow it down a little. So when the pandemic happened, it was right up my alley. Stay home. Don't go anywhere. Don't interact with people. Okay. So for a while, I was pretty good with that. And I was just kind of like, I'm totally okay with this whole 6 feet of distance, stay home, quarantine. Quarantine me, please. Like I will stay home. Quarantine without the sickness. Like I'm for it. Like let me stay home. So I got very comfortable with the whole being at home piece. So comfortable that, of course, like many other people, you get the quarantine 15. Is that what they called it? I don't think I got the quarantine 15. It might have been like the quarantine 20, maybe 30. I don't really know. Still figuring it out when I'm putting on stuff in my closet. Like, ooh, can't fit that anymore. Might as well let it go because it's not even trying at this point. So that happened. But it allowed me to kind of set into the slowing down process, which I'm okay with. But what I think I learned most about me during this time is that it was a time like you really had to care about people. And I just kind of really learned to kind of do things the old school way. So one of the things that I did at the beginning of the pandemic was order some cards. I've always kept cards around my house, just for, when something pops up, I can quickly get somebody a card and have a card ready to go. But I started mailing cards to people.
Oh, that's
notes.
so sweet.
So it kind of taught me to appreciate other people and to kind of be a little bit more gracious to people when things are tough for them. It kind of opened up your eyes, I think, to be a little bit more sympathetic and more understanding in the midst of feeling panicked yourself because you don't know what's going on. you can easily notice the panic in somebody else. So when you start having the conversation with somebody and they start going all over the place and you can hear the panic in their voice, it's just kind of like, they need a little bit of patience. They need somebody to listen to them. They need somebody to just hear out what they have to say. So I tried to learn how to listen just a little bit more. And I think coming out of it on, the heels still of coming out of it, I've learned to listen to people in a different way. And that's helped me a whole lot because it also helps me to kind of slow down and fully express my thoughts differently. To say what and to be okay with it, to sit in my feelings and to be okay with it and to say, I don't like that. So because I don't like that, I'm not going to waste my time with that because I just don't know how much time I have. So I'm going to value my time. I'm going to value your time, and we're not going to waste each other's time. So, I think that's mostly what I've learned, but slowing down has really been good for me. And I like it. And I'm okay with I like y'all. Let me just say, I like y'all. And I like interacting with you guys. But I've definitely been okay with the distance and the let's stay home and let's not do so much.
Wow, that's funny. Hey Lisa, thanks for joining us. Hey Ephraim, that's my cousin right there. I can't say brother. Everybody is somebody's brother. So Ephraim has to be wrong card. Ephraim has to be my cousin. He said, right, I did miss going places, but I was okay with the people part. I will say, by the time the pandemic happened, I had went from working, a regular work week, 5 days, 40 hours, maybe 41. Maybe a month or two before the pandemic, my work weeks went to 6 days. And it was 60 hours, and I felt like I was always there, and I was missing everything with my kids. So my inner mommy alarm was going off because they was having stuff at the school. My daughter was in this, she was in that, and I missed everything because I was at work. So initially, when the pandemic happened, I was like, okay, I don't gotta miss nothing. But then it was there was nothing to miss because we were all here. And so, for a while it was kind of okay. But then I kind of got impatient because then there was no time to get back to it. That time to get back to it just didn't happen. So I kind of got antsy. As far as people, I like people, but I like the people that I like. I'm sorry. I don't, I want everybody to be well and happy and whole and all that. But some of y'all, I just want to be well and happy and whole over there. Right. I like, my personal space. And, too many times, people don't regard your personal space. And it makes me uncomfortable. And so now that you know what, Ephraim, you the one that said you was okay without the people part. That means you don't like people in general. That's not true. Hi, Mother Norris. I like Mother Norris. It's just now that the pandemic is I don't know, whatever it's doing, and we could go outside again, people are already right back in your personal space. And I'm cringing on the inside. It's too much too soon. I'm happy to see you, but can you just stand here and talk? Do you have to be right here? I don't know. So I think the re-emerging of being outside, I think some people really missed that connection because now everybody wants to touch you, which is so crazy to me. Isn't this how we wind up locked down? Because of all the touching in the and I say that every time. I hope my pastor don't see this. But on Sunday, at the end of service, I went and hid in the sound booth because I want to be able just to say bye without everybody touching me.
You don't want to touch and agree?
No, we can agree in the spirit. It's
My husband was preaching last week and he said, turn to your neighbors. And I was so annoyed with him. I was so annoyed with
We
him.
don't do that no more.
Right. That's what you're going to do.
No
really?
touch your neighbor, no look at your
None of that.
neighbor. Just
Right.
think
Don't even breathe in your neighbor's direction. Like when I went to church the other night, I sat on the end of the row. I didn't want anybody sitting behind me. I didn't want to sit behind any, like I just think that we ought to re-emerge, making better choices.
Right.
Like, to me, I'm weighing things in the sense of, is it really necessary? Like, is it really necessary for me to hug you? Now, don't get me wrong. If I see Shanetta or if I'm talking to somebody and you look like you're having a moment, and you really need somebody, I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to try to comfort you because, you look like, but my inner alarm is probably going to be like, what are you doing? But, I would take a chance to try to comfort somebody. But just the regular, let me touch you. I don't know. Ephraim said the church has a lot of cultural and traditional things we have to reconsider. Right. And I think that that's a discussion that needs to be had. We need to reconsider, like my time really taught me that. Like somebody asked me for some birthday candles if I had some. And I was like, why? Like, why would you want birthday candles?
Why would you want to blow over your food for real? Now?
You can't blow out, like even when I had Anthony's party, we don't need no candles. He know how old he is. We're not you pay all this money for the cake. I don't want you to blow your breath all over it. Because now nobody can eat it. The only person that can eat it is your kids.
Right.
I'm not even sure I want it after this.
You ain't right.
Yeah,
I'm still doing it.
I think, like nobody wants to say it, because I know other people have to be thinking it. You know what I mean? Like we all, after everything we've been through as a country, I know there has to be something in there that says, "Ooh, should I really? Like, is it worth it? Is it worth the chance?" I don't know. That's just my thought. Go ahead, Trina. Tell us.
I think that I was already a homebody, and so I was really comfortable with the staying in thing. But I think I got too comfortable with it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm way too happy not to go anywhere, and I think it's kind of gone too. You know what I mean? Like I'm isolating myself now, where it's not good. And I didn't really realize it until I went to a graduation barbecue cookout or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be back out. And I was like, oh, I kind of remember this. I kind of like this a little bit. And so yeah, I think that while I'm probably always going to be that kind of homebody, I still do like to get out, and I do need to make sure that I do that and not just say, "Oh, I'm good. I'll just stay in the house." You know what I mean?
Right.
And the other thing I think that I found out is that at the beginning of the pandemic, I was very upset about people passing away, but then as time went on, I felt kind of numb about it. Like I was hearing about people passing away and I was just like, wow, somebody else. And I felt numb and I was like, what is going on with me? But then I don't know. I guess it was just building up because then I don't remember like when it was, but all of a sudden it was that one last news that hit me. And I fell apart and I was like, this is crazy. What is all it, what is going on? And I really had to take inventory of how I was dealing with everything,
Right.
and recognizing that I was pushing it to the side and not really dealing with all of the loss that was happening. And so I had to take inventory and say, like, I've got to deal with this as it comes and not just kind of push it down. So that's one thing that I learned about myself, that I can't just, when it's so much loss at once, I couldn't just not deal. I had to deal with it as it comes. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Hold on, we got a question. So She said, "Ladies, what do you think about the COVID vaccine?" So I know we talked about this before, but I'll give you guys a chance to answer. Ladies, what do y'all think about the
I,
vaccine?
I, I think everybody again should research. I personally took the vaccine, but I don't believe we should shame anybody for taking it. I don't feel we should shame anybody for not taking it. I think everybody should do their own research, be persuaded by their own thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and let that be that.
Right.
I
I
agree
agree.
with Angela. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
as well.
Yeah, I haven't taken it, and I promise, like after you were on before, Toya, and you talked about it and talked about all the stats and the numbers, I was like, okay, she made it make so much sense. Maybe I need to think about taking it. And then not a day later, it was something that I saw like on the news and something. I was like, okay, I can't. Because it's like, I take one step forward and five steps back.
Right.
So I'm still like on that maybe. So I'm still waiting it out. But I think, for those people that feel it's the right answer, by all means, they should do it. Ephraim said, "Why do you think you were numb at first, Katrina?"
Because it was so many back to back that I couldn't process it all at once, and so I wasn't dealing with it. Um, it was in there because it all came out in one big burst, but I wasn't acknowledging it as it came.
What is that? Oh, no more watching.
And I think that's easy to do. I'm
Um,
sorry.
no, you're fine. So, ladies, let me ask you a question. So, Trina, you know how you said you just found yourself that you were constantly just kind of pushing things down or pushing it to the side. Do you ladies feel like that's something that we do as women often? A lot of times, what we're feeling, we push it to the side because there's the kids or there's the husband or there's the job or whatever. Do you feel like oftentimes we do that to ourselves? We push stuff aside and, oh, I'll deal with it later, you know?
Absolutely. So when I mentioned that I realized I was the strong friend, it's because I had a moment very similar to Trina to where, I was just pushing stuff down, anxiety, fears, frustration, stress was just pushing it down so I can continue helping other people and just continue because we constantly push ourselves forward. And I myself had a moment very late in the year to where the smallest thing just had me in tears, and I was like, I don't even know why I'm so upset right now. And then I had to realize it was because I had been pushing stuff down all year trying to deal with the pandemic.
Right.
Toya, I want to comment on what you were saying because that kind of ties into what I had kind of gone through or what I learned about myself during the pandemic. So I've been working from home for over a year now. So I haven't even, I'm only going out the house maybe once a week. And that's one thing that I did notice is that I was a lot more emotional. Um, and even if there was no quote unquote trigger, there were just things like even from my past or things that may have happened 30 years ago. And I'm like, why am I,
Coming up.
tripping over this? And it seemed, and I think it was because I had nothing but time to like sit in it and think about it. The first time I really became emotional was around the George Floyd murder. When he was murdered, I don't know what, because unfortunately we see it all the time, but it was something about his death that triggered me. Like I was even at work crying. I was in the middle of phone calls and I was to have to go on mute because it was just a lot to deal with. And then seeing, that, and then the people who were dying, and then dealing with my own stuff. And, I had a lot of different feelings that I was combating. My girls were learning from home, but I'm feeling guilty because I'm working from home. So I can't devote the time that I need to help them because I'm in back-to-back meetings, and so I'm just, I'm having the guilt, because I'm here, but I'm not here, and they're here, but they're watching TV, and I need to do this, and I'm not doing that. And so I began to become very critical of myself. So the biggest thing that I took away from this pandemic was the importance of my mental health. And I know people, said it and it almost sounds cliche, but now I understand the what it looks like. Um, Even to the point where I started seeing a therapist during the pandemic. So it's something new for me. It feels strange, but I said I'm gonna still walk through it and go through it because I believe we need to talk some of this stuff out.
Right.
We need to understand from a professional perspective, what is this, and help me to kind of connect certain dots. So it's there's been benefits, but it's been tough.
Yeah, that is awesome, and kudos to you for taking that step for yourself.
Yes, that's so brave, Tan.
It's real, even to be able to admit it is just it really is to be able to say that out loud on a platform like this is really amazing, because I think more of us really need to support each other in moments like this, and
Right.
even in moments in saying, hey, I didn't recognize these feelings and I need help going through this with somebody. I can't do this by myself. I was already, I think I'm kind of like a borderline, depends on what day of the week, borderline emotional / like strong, like just depending on what day of the week it is. But I cried a lot during the entire thing. Like I think probably every day, seriously, like it was just stuff happening. But I think everything was so in our face, and it was like you had no choice but to look at it unless you decided to turn it off. Like Anthony posted, like no more watching. Like literally, I had to commit to times where I was like, okay, I got to turn this off, because I would literally watch the NBC News, the Today Show, and then I would go to CNN, and then I would come back at 4:00 and like start the process all over again through to the 11:00 news. And it was like right there constantly, because you wanted to know, you wanted to be in touch, you wanted to be aware of what's going on, but it's like, what is it doing to you mentally? Like, how is that impacting you emotionally? I had a baby graduating during the pandemic. So when they canceled school, like I cried for her. I don't even know if she really cried as much as I did about the stuff that got canceled for her. Like her prom got canceled. We had just paid for her prom dress. Oh my God. And that prom got canceled. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go tell her, and I'm not going to cry when I tell her. I'm going to go tell her that prom got canceled. Went in the room to tell her, and she was like, yeah, I heard. And she was good. And I just started crying. And I was like, oh man. When they canceled graduation, like I just knew I was just like, I wanted to wallow in the floor. Like I was so like just, and she's like, I'm over it. I'm just ready to go to college. And I'm like, but I'm not, we're not doing it. Like it was just a hot mess.
But then you showed her it was safe to have those emotions too, even if she didn't reflect it herself. You showed her it was safe to feel that way.
That's the key. I also learned to embrace my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm sad, I am sad. If I feel like crying, I'm going to cry. I'll be okay. But there's nothing wrong with demonstrating emotion, just like you demonstrate happiness. That's just like you are laughing. Sadness is a part of life. And I feel that we have to show even our, the ones who's watching, and our kids, it's a healthy way to demonstrate and exhibit those emotions.
Yeah.
Right. Ephraim said, I felt for those seniors, that's supposed to be a special moment. I totally agree. I will say, I'm not typically an emotional person. I'm not much of a crier. Like it has to be something, I don't know. Like I cry more when I'm upset than like if I'm sad. Like if I get angry, I'll probably cry before I cry because my feelings are hurt. I don't know. It's just whatever. My makeup is a little weird. So I don't cry much. But like watching, I think Ephraim said when George Floyd cries for his mama. Like, watching all the cops and all the abuse and stuff that was going online, that stuff was making me like, that stuff was tearing me up. Like all I could think is, one day my son is gonna be whatever age. Like I saw a video where some cops had arrested, I don't know, she was like 9 or something, some 9-year-old girl, and they had handcuffed her and they would throw her in the back of the car. She was screaming for her dad. Like those types of things really made me emotional because all I could see was my children and me not being able to protect them. Like, like nothing your husband get on my nerves. And me not being able to protect them or be there. So like those things really made me emotional watching a lot of that on TV till like I kind of had to just stare away from it because now I'm sitting the kids down and I'm like, listen, this what needs to happen. If this happens, you do this. If we hear and this happens, like and they like, mommy, you okay? And I'm like, no, but you need to listen. So it's kind of making me a little borderline paranoid. So I kind of had to stop watching that stuff so much because that was hard for me. Through the pandemic, I think I learned most that busy doesn't mean effective. Even before, like I was working so many hours and I felt like, oh well, I'm making money, I'm paying for this, the kids got this and that, and that's all I was thinking. Like, I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. So when the pandemic happened, and now I'm no longer busy. No, now I'm no longer racing, from work, trying to catch this is just whatever. And for a while I felt like, okay, now I'm kind of like useless. Like, I'm not doing anything. And it took a minute for me to kind of roll out of it in my head. To where, I realized that before I was very busy, but how effective was I? Like, I feel like the time of the pandemic, I did more, I don't know, more meaningful things since the pandemic has happened. Like, honestly, really connected with more people since the pandemic has happened than I feel like I would have prior to. So I definitely learned that busy is not necessarily effective. So I learned that during the pandemic. And I think it's also helped me, like you said, to slow down, but not slow down in the sense of not doing anything, slow down like my emotions. Because I kind of, in a sense, get quick tempered to where like I can get upset really fast. Like something happened, you say something, I'm mad. I'm not usually, prior to, I wasn't really trying to see it from anybody else. I'm just mad. I'm mad. I'm not dealing with you because I don't like it and I'm done. Like, but during the pandemic, it's helped me to slow down, I think, my emotions and the way I respond to things. So like when something happened, I could look at it differently. And kind of process it differently and kind of put myself in other people's shoes to some degree so that I don't always think of it as something that's done to me. Sometimes people just do things. It's not always personal. So I definitely learned that during the pandemic. So it has helped with connecting with people. Um, and I think that's been great. Taiwan said, biggest lesson learned for me is my job of the last 21 years couldn't care less about me or any other employee. Got to use all of my time off to enjoy life because a job will replace me in the blink of an eye. Absolutely.
Fortunately, yeah.
That is the truth. When you're doing a job, you get so wrapped up in it. It's kind of like you almost think that if I'm not here, it's not gonna work right. Like they need me. And then a company will let you know that we'll go on without you.
Right.
You home with COVID, and they talking about, well, it's day 13. You sure you can't just come on back early? Like, they count the days. Okay, well, it'll be day 14. So you're gonna be in tomorrow. Like, no thought for your well-being. So that's good, Taiwan. I wonder how many men kind of have went through that process with the pandemic.
That's a good question. I would be curious to hear a male's perspective of how they felt about going through the pandemic.
Right.
Did they experience a lot of the emotional ups and downs that I hear a lot of women mainly discuss, but I don't know.
Ephraim, you're in here. So Ephraim, let's get an answer from you. Is he, tell he could always pop in the screen. I know he ain't that far.
No, he's right here.
Right. I know, I see you looking. You might as well join in the conversation. We love to hear a male perspective. Well, he said no.
Yeah, no.
Really? But yeah, I wonder for how many men, they actually feel that. Because, I know a lot of times men get stuck in that provider role where, my job, I'm a provider, my job,
Yeah.
and, not being able to do that. I wonder what that's been like.
I have to say that I recall a particular time, and we were just talking about this the other day. In the beginning of the pandemic, we were talking about this on Father's Day with our family. And not that it was ridiculous, because we were kind of unaware of how things were going and we were trying to respond accordingly. I can remember this particular day when everything first started happening. We started hearing about the lockdowns, and we all needed to be at home and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, my son, who's now 21, he had a little job and he was like ready to hit the streets. He was like, stay home. Like, nobody's staying home. Like, that's ridiculous. And my husband was like, if you leave this house, do not come back. Like, we get ready to lock down the house. Like, he was telling the kids, no friends, no company,
Right.
He was like kind of laying down the law. And this was before they fully locked everything down. It was like when they had just said, okay, for our county, we were supposed to be out of school for 2 days, that Friday and that Monday. And they were just the talk was just getting started that, oh my goodness, they're going to close schools for a week. And it was just kind of like just getting going. And he was like, listen, we're just going to stay home. I'm going to go to work, but that's all we're doing. Nothing else. And so he told my son, if you leave this house, like, don't bother coming back. Like, this now. And I'm like, oh my God, did he just tell my kid not to come home? So of course, like, I'm like scratching. I'm like in panic mode. And that boy left.
Oh.
And he went to a friend's house and he made up his mind that, he was just going to do what he was going to do. And so, of course, I'm all super emotional, of course. And my husband is like, well, don't. So because of my husband's job, he was still constantly working. Plus, church was down to the bare minimum because we were broadcasting. So he was still doing church. So on a particular Sunday, husband's at church. The boy comes in the house to come get some clothes. And we have our alarm system sends us notifications when the doors open and close. And so you can check the camera to see who's walking into that particular door.
Right.
And my husband checked the camera and saw that it was the boy. He called me so fast and he was like, tell him I said, get out. And you wash down everything. And he was like, mop the floor, clean off the banister. And like, he just like giving me all these demands. And I was just like, I lost it on the phone. So like, I'm crying. He yelling at me on the phone. I'm crying. I'm trying to yell at my son and tell him to get out the house. My other son gave him a fist bump and he's like, tell him I said, go take a shower. So I'm yelling at one kid, go take a shower. My daughter is standing there looking like, oh my God. So we're having like this whole family thing happening, but I could feel his emotions in the midst of everything. Right. But it was like a hot mess. And so we were talking about just the stress of it all. Right. And him being the man of the house, he was trying to protect his family. He was trying to still provide for his family all in the midst of it, and then still be there to support people in ministry, right. All in the midst of all this crazy going on. So for him, I know that was a lot. That was a lot to handle. And then you got a wife on the phone crying and all emotional, and you trying to be strong, but at the same time trying to put your foot down as the dad. Like, it was just so much happening. And like, thinking back on it now, I can laugh about it. A year and a half later, like, we can, right. We can kind of giggle and be like, that was crazy. Well, that was wild. Like, we really did all that. But in that moment, it was just like, and I mean, literally, like, I'm getting the bleach and I'm getting the mop and glow and I'm getting all this stuff, trying to get the floor clean and to clean the doorknobs and to clean the banister well, what else did he touch when he came in? And the other kids would look at me like, are you serious right now?
It was scary. Because you didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's like, wipe down everything that come in the house, packages, spray it. When you come in the house, drop all your clothes, like strip naked at the door.
Because the first thing they
And-
told you was from contact.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we were like,
Well-
and we laughed about it, but it was hard.
I think one thing I found out is I love Clorox wipes, and I'm gonna keep them in the rotation because
Right.
it's something about like it has a nice smell. They're very convenient. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we started with the Clorox wipes. We're gonna keep those. We like
Yeah.
Clorox wipes, but the whole wiping down everything, and especially with the daycare, like I had to. I'm telling you, that's how I got into the Clorox wipes, and they were like golden. They were hard to find.
Yeah.
And
Oh
my
God.
girlfriend found some for me. She was like, "Oh my God, I got you some wipes. I got you some Lysol too." So it was just like, "Oh my gosh, she really loves me. She got Lysol for me."
You found value in cleaning products.
No, seriously. Yeah. That stuff was hard to
Great.
come by. And then they started, increasing the prices of them. It's like
Yeah.
$10 for a can of Lysol.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now that we're emerging on the other side, because I don't still feel like it's over. we're slowly emerging on the other side. Do you guys think like you have a new lease on life or whatever? Hold on before you answer. He said it was surreal. New York was ground zero, and we were seeing 600 plus deaths a day. I imagine so many of us are affected with PST, right? PST after going through it. Right. I can imagine that.
And especially those who actually contracted it.
Mhm.
Because even those who had the virus, there's still lingering effects, even out after it. So yeah, it's not the same. I don't think we'll be the same.
Right. Like I know, right after the pandemic happened, I started staying home, and then out of the blue, I started having something going on with my heart. So I'm like, I'm at home, I'm having all these heart issues. So my husband's like, you're not going outside. Like, he didn't even let me go to the store. If he went to the store, he had this whole process. He was trying to keep me away from everything because we couldn't figure out what was going on. And then you couldn't go to the doctor, for a while. You couldn't go to the doctor. And then when I did go to the hospital, I had to go by myself, and he couldn't come in. And so he would have to drop me off and, not know what was going on. So it was like a lot that was happening, all at one time. So, like now for me, like after everything and we got through it and we passed over to whatever, like I feel like for me, as much as tomorrow's not promised, like I really feel like, tomorrow's not promised. So all the things you say, I'm going to do this next year. I'm like, nope. Let me figure out,
That's true.
right. Like, so now I'm like, look, I'm going to do this. Like, I know we got responsibilities, we got bills. Yeah, I'm paid this, but I'm not going to stress. Like, I'm not going to stress about this. I'm not, like I've just started seeing things differently. Like I only got one life, and I'm not going to be bogged down with so much excess. So do you ladies feel like that? Like you have a new lease on life, a different attitude about things? Like, where do you stand on that?
One of the things that I'm taking with me is to be more honest, and not just, honest with people, but honest with myself. And if there's something that is I feel is hurting me or anything, is to not just kind of sit on it and just say it'll work itself out.
Right.
Like you said, tomorrow isn't promised, and I don't have time to carry on unnecessary baggage and unnecessary hurt and just harbor bitterness, resentment, anything. I need to be honest about it, even if I'm the to blame for however I'm feeling.
Right.
Honesty, being honest and authentic with myself and with people around me.
Yeah.
He said, are you saying trust your emotions?
I'm going to say acknowledge emotions, because sometimes emotions can mask other things. And if you can't always go off of emotion, but I think emotions are indicators, and it can indicate when something is maybe a little off.
Right.
So I'm going to say acknowledge and validate my emotions, but I don't want to put my trust in them.
Absolutely. That's good. Trina, so I know you said you realized you got a little comfortable being at home. So now, like, are you slowly trying to commit to, getting out a little more?
I think I'll make more of an effort. I don't know. I mean, because I am very comfortable at home, but I'll probably not flake on as many invitations. Probably actually show up when I'm invited.
That's a start.
That's a-
Someone said, I'm an essential worker, so I worked throughout the pandemic. My wife was home for a portion. The biggest positive. Okay,
I know that's right.
listen.
Wait.
He's like, let's just put it all out there. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
it's a fact. The fact
Make
is,
it plain.
But not 1995.
Oh,
though. Like, we went way back to just when you get out of high school. I guess that is when you feeling the friskiest, right out of do a hot mess. But yeah, I mean, the mild part of what he said, but yeah, you definitely had more time to put into your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the biggest takeaway for me that I could think of now. Just seeing so many relationships crumble under the stress
Right.
of being around each other so much because of the pandemic, and realizing that, because I was already working from home before the pandemic, so it wasn't as big of a shift for me. But David got switched to working from home, and so we went from to where we see each other maybe from 6 at night until later, to where we are seeing each other every hour of the day. And I'll be honest, I fully expected to be like, oh, this boy got to go. Like, it's not gonna work. But really it turned out to be one of the best things ever. We really strengthened the relationship, and I learned to value the things that I may have probably taken for granted before.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because it was meaningful to our relationship, but because we saw so many other relationships failing,
Right.
because they didn't have a solid foundation going into the pandemic.
Right. So Ephraim said Trina is a low-key gangster. Keep flaking on him. He always, like, I will say, like, the pandemic scared me a little bit. Like, me and Anthony were just getting back together, and we were just deciding, that we were gonna work through everything, and then it was like right here. So at first I was like, well, this is the real test. Like, I said I wanted to do this again. Let's see if we really can do it. Because at first I thought, like, we just, he was working from home, so he had a system. So at first, for me, I was like almost the outsider. Like, the kids were out of school before I came home, so everybody had a system. And then it's like, now add mommy and stir. So, like, at first it was like, okay, we don't, but that's not what they do, babe. The kids do this and the kids, and I was like, okay, now wait a minute. And it took a little bit for, I would say, for me to get into their rhythm, because they already had, like, the way that they flowed, and I was used to the old way of doing things. So, like, at first I was like, okay, this ain't gonna work, this pandemic thing. But it actually turned out to be really, really great. Really great for us. Like, before, we did things together, but now it's like we do everything together, and it's like we want to do things together though. Like, so that part has really been great. So I can say that
How do you
part has
think?
been great.
How do you think the kids will readjust to not being around you all so much when next school year hits? Because, like, a lot of our kids did the online learning. They stayed home for an entire year now.
Right.
So when August hits and things change back, and they start going back in person and they're kind of separated, how do you think your kids are going to respond to that?
Okay, so when y'all see my daughter, she's always trying to be attached to my hip. Now they say they want to go back to school. Like I know she wants to go back to school in the sense that she had all this extracurricular stuff. But like if I go somewhere and I leave them, like when they hear me grabbing keys, the both of them are like, "Where you going?" Like even my son, and he don't even really be thinking about me too much until they think I'm leaving. And then I'm like, okay, well, I got a job interview. A job interview? Why would you do that? Because I'm like, I gotta go back to work at some point. So it's going to be interesting because they say they want to go back to school, but I'm wondering if they really understand. That means you have to go that way, and mommy's gonna go. We're gonna go the opposite way. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know.
I
But
think
both
my
of them are
young
in the same school now, though. So she's in middle school with him. So I have two middle schoolers. So that might make up the difference because they in the same school together. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think my youngest is going to adjust better than my oldest, and she's going to kindergarten. And they'll be at the same school, but this is her first time at, like, she says real school, not like the big people school. But my oldest is like your daughter. She's very clingy. Like she literally will give me probably about 10 to 15 hugs a day. And so I don't know how she's going. I think she's ready to go to school to interact, but I don't know if she's going to be able to emotionally detach from what this kind of culture that we've established for the past year and some change. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I'm ready.
Right. I'm ready for them to
We
go
will
back.
make it work. Whatever you need to go to school to stay there, we will make it work.
Because like even in the morning when Anthony's doing his show, my daughter gets up and she comes and gets in my bed next to me. Like every morning. And sometimes she'll get in the bed, get under the cover, and go to sleep. She'll go back to sleep just in my bed. Like she's by me all day long. If I'm in the house, she's right there. Like, so I know for her, it's going to be interesting. But I'm like you, Tangela, I'm ready. Like sometimes I ask her, can I get my own air? Like, I got you right here. I got your father on this side. Like, where do I get my own air? So yeah, I think I'm ready. I think it'll be good for them too, though. Because that table and that computer screen is it's
I
gotta
don't know.
be
I think I kind of took for granted the social skills that they learn in school.
right.
It's more than just, learning the lessons, but it's learning how to interact, how to play, how to
Oh,
share, how to, resolve conflict
Yeah.
that I don't think they're getting at home because
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son is like you, Trina. He fine. If he don't have to go out, he don't care. He was always kind of like that, but now, I mean, like we could be like, okay, we're going out. Can I stay home? No.
Yeah.
Get your behind and let's go. Like, but he could just stay home in his pajamas. I have to make him get dressed. I think the kids are gonna adjust fast. They'll recover and go back to normal like nothing happened. I hope so.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
right. Those early years are formative. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, my son was never much of a social butterfly, I don't think. And, he got into middle school and then the pandemic happened. And now he's at his last year of middle school. He didn't even really get a chance to make friends.
Get the full
Like,
middle school
Right.
experience.
yeah,
Right.
so, I think for him it's going to be interesting, especially because you talk about somebody don't like people. He don't like people. Like, no, for real. Like, I mean, even like our relatives, even the fun ones, he like, hi, if he can stay in his room, just throw him some food in there. He's good. He really don't like to be bothered. And the pandemic, I think, just cemented that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm ready. I'm ready to push him out anywhere. Just go be around people, be free. So
My youngest is like that unless they're his friends. Like he's uninterested in people. I literally bought him a mask during the pandemic because I was into buying every single mask you could find also during the pandemic. That was another issue I had. Um, but I literally brought him a mask, the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, and it said ill people. And he loved it.
Okay.
And since Chanel, that was another thing. That online shopping got ridiculous.
Still,
I was like shocking myself. I was like, "Ooh, you need to slow down." But it was like clockwork, and the girls was like, "Mommy, you got another package?" And she was like, "Don't say it out loud and stuff."
Like, be quiet. Your daddy might be listening.
Right. Didn't Daddy tell you no more packages? I was like, I bought this with my money. It's like it got out of hand. That
I was telling my kids, you need to mind your business. Like,
Right.
mind your business. Get the package off the porch and put it in my room, but mind your business.
Right. Hide it. Hurry up before you fall and come home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all got a few extra vices that we probably didn't have. So hopefully we'll be able to emerge as the beautiful butterflies that we are and drop some of the things we picked up and keep the important things. So, ladies, I thank you for joining us. Toya, thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me.
It's always great to have you. So yes, as always, guys, we are here every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. We will be back next week, same time, same bat channel. Until then, be safe and take care.